series of how we'll be creating different models. We'll be doing three things. Firstly, we'll be learning how to change the color of our different models depending on what color we like. Next, what we'll be doing is we'll be upgrading the design of our previous model, which we first created a tray. And thirdly, we're going to be creating a brand new model. It's a pretty straightforward process. I've added the timestamps below so you can skip to any part you would like. So we're going to start off with step 1, where we're going to look at how to change the color of your 3D model. What we will do, we will select this color little patch tab on the side, and from here we can change any color we want. We can choose colors like yellow or even grays, and there are multiple different colors you can choose from. Change this based on your preferences and what you might like to see. Also note that each model would have their separate color, so when you're switching between parts in your part studio, the color would automatically revert back to the normal blue. So now we're going to move on is step 2 of our tutorial today. What we will be looking at is a new artistic element change from our old tray holder. Now on your screen you can see that I've created a new design for this. I've added a fillet on the highlighted edges. You can see the radius I've selected as 1.328 and all the other settings. So now that we're happy with the fillet, we will be adding a face blend to our structure. So what I've chosen is the 0.6 radius, and I've applied it to two different sides, one of the walls, it can be any, and the base of our box / tray. So that's a very simple, nice change, and it's making it look much nicer, much more elegant and minimalistic. You can see the difference between a very standard one and the new one. So now we'll be moving on to the second part of our project, a stackable organizer. It will be following a 4-grid grid layout, a 4-unit grid layout. I'm going to first click on Sketch, create a rectangle. Size does not matter in this case. I'm going to go over to Dimensions, select the dimensions for all different sides like I've taught you. Then I ended up adding a second square inside, adding construction lines and dimension lines inside. Now I've set it to 14 by 14 to ensure that it has it has 2 units vertically, 2 units horizontally. I gave it a basic extrusion. You can see that I've added an extrusion of 10 cm. I then added a shell layer. The shell hollowed out the inside of the cube. You can see how it is now hollow from the inside due to the shell. The shell gave it a 1 cm thick wall all around. Click OK. To reduce the cost of filament and the amount of filament being used, I'm going to remove a portion of the side walls. I've done this by adding this rectangular sketch using the classic construction lines with dimensions. I go over and the construction lines to each side. And now I give it 1 cm all around. This is with the same border as seen with the front side. Click OK. Now I go to extrusion and click on remove. Even if your remove is greater than 1 cm, it should be fine. All it needs to be is 1 cm or more. There you go. I've done it for all the sides. This is severely going to reduce the filament costs when we print it later on in the series. Now I'm going to add a curve blend to give it a nice smooth finish. Select the different sides as seen in previous tutorials. This curve blend is going to focus on the base and the pillars. Now this one's going to focus on the ceiling and the pillars. So you can do all of the pillars and the ceilings at once. You don't have to do each side of this pillar in different goes. Originally, I was going to integrate a like extrusion, but then I realized it won't work and it wasn't going to give me the finish I wanted. So I went back a few steps to when I removed at 1 cm from the front side, if you remember. So basically, I had to then like add another rectangular sketch, which spanned from one edge to the other. Giving me that like extrusion and like a better finish that I wanted. And like now, note that everything that I'm doing is like all the layers that I'm creating are around that point where I like remove that original 1 cm extrusion, so like that would ensure that any of the other work we've done isn't compromised. And then after I created that like rectangular sketch from one side to the other, I removed 1 cm, like from that sketch. You know how it goes. Also, the way I made that sketch was I also kind of like copied the other rectangular designs from the other sides, made my work a lot easier. And then I added like another rounding element to the front side of the pillars, which are now visible. So like it was still the same like curvature and everything. So yeah, just hang on a second. Let me just finish fixing this up.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So now I'm creating like the slots for where I'll be keeping the magnets. Notice I'm putting 2 on each like side. Basically this is because It'll be facing like 3 units, and allow like compatibility with our things. I'm creating the lines, clicking enter to get the dimensions. I then took the dimensions of the boxes themselves, and you can see now that I've changed the dimensions. I've created a gap of 5.5 between the magnets. I have also kept the size of the magnet slots the same, 1.5 by 0.4. And then I've also done the maths to ensure that it is the right distance from the edges, as which is 2.75 for my build. If you change the original size of the sketch or the size of one unit, your results or your lengths may vary. Now, actually, what I noticed was that if I let if I let the base be as thick as it originally was, it would likely be lower than the other original modular like tray holder we made. So to counter this, I actually added a depth of 0.5. Basically, this increased the depth. So now I also have to actually go back to my sketch and actually lower the sketch a bit. I also added the sketch for all the different sides. Now I'm actually adding another sketch on the top of the drawer mechanism. Basically this will make it such, it'll be such that you can now stack drawers on top of one another. So I originally create another square. After some consideration, I put it as 1 cm. I then add another sketch onto the inside. Obviously, you click enter to get the dimensions. I did 0.4 and then I gave that 0.5. I then moved it to a bit further away from the edges, and now I'll be trying to center it. So I created a line construction system. I set it to 0.5 to ensure that it is centered. I only have to do now the top, which I also set to a 0.3 cm so that it is also centered vertically. So now what I've actually done is that I've actually added another square on the another square. This one, so basically it was a bigger square than the 0.4, 0.5. And I've also moved the sketch a bit away from the corner. Basically see me now like centering the larger square as well. So by creating that smaller, the second square on the inside, I was able to add some space between the edges that would create for a much more smoother finish. Also for the rectangles at the top, I decided to keep a space of 1 cm. Basically, this is because these points, these square points are actually where the pillars are, so I will be actually indenting it a bit. So you can now see that I've done it for all the different sides. So now I've actually created another rectangle. So now I have to change the sizes to 2 cm by 2 cm. I added another construction line system, taking into consideration how big the length and the width of the drawers are. I'll change this to 6 by 6. Now this is also centered. Basically, this will help with the alignment and overall stability of the shelves which I'll be putting on top of this. Now I click OK. Now what I will go over is to extrusion, select remove, and then select the specific square. So firstly I'm starting off with the central square I made. I remove approximately 0.5 cm. then click OK. Now you can see because I've added an extrusion to the sketch, it hides itself. You can just click the I button to make it visible again. I can do the same thing with remove, and then I remove 0.5. You can see me do this with all of the uh, different sides at once. This just makes it reduce the amount of features that are there and makes it easier to navigate. Actually, I ended up deciding that 0.7 might be a better size. So now I add another extrusion slash remove, and I select all of the pillars which were left standing in the holes I made. You can see me change it to 0.9 so that it can account for the magnets. The reason I actually created these two separate squares was to actually also create a easier system to create the slots for the magnets. That will further allow, like, it will give that a snappy feeling later on when we like design this and build it in the physical world. You can just see me going through my sketches, checking if it's correct, and I can see the system it's made.